Small boats.
The Minister and I have made it clear that we will do whatever it takes to stop the boats.
Small minds.
And you undermined a democratic institution.
Well, I don't think that's the case.
World's smallest violin.
I've been living with something for the last couple of months that may well fundamentally affect my future career going on from here, and whether I can even stay living in this country.
These are the interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnson and welcome to The Interesting Times, which is a political comedy show from the UK. Now, it's not been a good week for the Home Office. First of all, Yvette Cooper laid into Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick's homework on Tuesday, while Robert doodled and tried to find his happy place.
The Immigration Minister had seriously signed off this garbage of an impact assessment that no self-respecting minister could possibly think was serious. But actually, the nonsense that he's just said is even worse and even less coherent. And instead it says, this impact assessment does not attempt to estimate any costs of implementing the bill. Really, what is the point of it? It admits, this document admits themselves, that people may not be deterred by any of this, and it cannot answer the most basic questions. I have never seen anything more clueless and chaotic than this.
Jenrick's answer was, I know you are, but what am I?
Labour's recklessly naive approach to border security. When she said that this document was garbage and clueless, I thought she was referring to her own 5-point plan to tackle illegal migration.
This was the impact assessment for the illegal migration bill, but not the only illegal migration thing the government was pushing.
By a majority, this court allows the appeal on the issue of whether Rwanda is a safe third country.
It's a ruling that human rights groups have welcomed, and it's thrown the British government's entire scheme for deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda into doubt. The latest appeal was brought by the charity Asylum Aid, and 10 asylum seekers all arrived in the UK by crossing the English Channel from France. The key issue was whether Rwanda was a safe third country to send them to. The court's answer was no.
Yes, this is news that the Rwanda plan to deport refugees to Rwanda was deemed unlawful on Thursday. It was also deemed stupid, inhuman, unworkable and expensive, not by the judges, obviously by me. This gave Suella Braverman a tough week, well, tougher than normal, but Suella knew what the problem was.
The Minister and I have made it clear that we will do whatever it takes to stop the boats and fix this problem. The decision today, as I've said, is disappointing. The system is rigged against the British people. It's as simple as that.
Which begs the question then, why is she doing this?
And whilst, of course, we are disappointed with the decision today, we will be putting in an application to seek permission to appeal the judgment very, very swiftly. Especially
as, at £170,000 per person, it's over £60,000 per person more expensive than processing the claims. And even the Home Office themselves have said it's unlikely to work. So why do it?
This judgment is disappointing for the majority of the British people, who have repeatedly voted for controlled migration.
To stop the boats. That's what the country wants us to focus on.
I feel less safe in Britain because we don't have control of our borders, stopping the democratically elected government doing what it wants to do.
Strange that the government that's changed the Prime Minister twice without going to seek the opinion of the electorate is suddenly concerned with democratically elected governments. I mean, if they did, they might have found out what the British people actually thought of the Rwanda plan.
Even though we have more people who voted Conservative than for any other single party here, is there anyone here who supports sending people to Rwanda?
But maybe it isn't the British people. Maybe it's been done for those that were here before the people. Maybe whatever crawled out the slime and stood on 2 legs first wants its country back.
Much more important reason that it's still worth doing is the benefit of deterring people from coming in the first place.
When today these nefarious forces are willfully misrepresenting the purpose of the Rwanda scheme, one of our best hopes to stop the boats, or at least reduce the stream of terrorists and criminals putting the lives of our loved ones at risk.
Ultimately, what is happening here is that the Home Office is making it very clear that the Rwanda policy is a deterrent factor.
But it didn't end there for Suella, as on Thursday she came to the House of Commons to talk about the ruling, but got a little sidetracked by the fact that the Tories have been in power for 13 years.
Appointing aspects of the judgment will seek permission to appeal them. But I think the British people will see quite clearly, Mr. Speaker, that while we are trying to stop the boats, Labour have simply obstructed progress time and time again and offered no solutions. The Prime Minister and I have promised to do whatever it takes to stop the boats. Labour have apparently pledged to do whatever it takes to stop us stopping the boats.
Can I just say, gently to the Home Secretary, this is about the statement of the judge about migration. This isn't about the Labour Party. This is about what the government's doing. I don't want to interfere, I don't want to intervene, but we do need to stick to what the statement's meant to be about. Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, in conclusion, in any event, while Labour continue to celebrate today's judgment and continue to celebrate every obstacle...
Second word in, really? Even Jenrick is looking at the Speaker like, didn't you just tell her not to say all that? So to recap, it's immoral, illegal, staggeringly expensive and pretty sure won't work. But it's likely to have one benefit.
There are rumours today that Rishi Sunak is thinking of sacking Suella Braverman.
Oh, sorry. Don't mind me. I'm just practising for if I ever have to listen to former Conservative MEP and man in the pub desperate to catch your eye to give you his well-informed opinion about trans rights, David Campbell Bannerman.
Well, the whole process has brought parliamentary democracy into the gutter. It's absolutely outrageous. It's the way it's been conducted. Harriet Harman admitted in Parliament...
Yeah, I think that's it.
That she tweeted 3 times that Boris was guilty.
But then she went straight to the government, of which Boris Johnson was then a Prime Minister, and said because of that tweet she was prepared to stand back. Boris Johnson's government said absolutely not.
No, not Boris Johnson. Sunak's government said.
Sunak's government, I'm terribly sorry.
And it's like, well, who said it? We need to inquire into that. Who said it? Because it hasn't been admitted.
Can I just go back? Who
asked her to do that?
The committee themselves have produced a follow-up report to the report of people who they say have undermined the committee's work. It criticises 7 MPs and 3 laws. This doesn't include Bannerman, who's neither, but does include Nadine Dorries, who's one and wants to be the other. And despite saying she will resign as an MP with immediate effect over 3 weeks ago, she is inexplicably still an MP. And she sat down with a couple of guests on her regular segment, Nadine Meets Reality, to discuss the report. And this week it was the turn of LBC, BBC and Telegraph journalist Matthew Stadlin to attempt to navigate through the Prosecco-induced haze.
Amongst other things, you accuse this Privileges Committee,
I knew I shouldn't have done this show.
which is a democratic means for Parliament to hold itself to account. You said they changed the rules.
They did.
Lowered the bar and inserted the vague term reckless into the terms of reference. Now, this is the key line. Boris Johnson will be found guilty by this kangaroo court. You were prejudging your colleagues who are representing us.
Well, I was right, Matthew. I was right.
No one in the House of Commons voted against this process. Not one single vote, as far as I understand it. You didn't like what you thought this committee would find, and so therefore you sowed the seeds of doubt amongst the wider population, and you undermined a democratic institution.
Well, I don't think that's the case.
And to think, but for a cruel piece of deception by our Prime Minister, she could have been deciding our laws. Lord Zach Goldsmith was also on the list. Lord Goldsmith resigned from government on Friday morning.
Lord Goldsmith has resigned this morning criticising you over the environment. What's your reaction, and did you ask him to apologise over his comments on the Privileges Committee?
Thank you, Hugh. Look, quickly on Lord Goldsmith, he was asked to apologise for his comments about the Privileges Committee because I felt that those were incompatible with his position as a minister. He's obviously chosen to take a different course. I accept that.
Except that's not the reason he resigned. And we kind of know that because he has apologised. No, he walked out of his job, as mentioned by the reporter there, because Sunak was simply uninterested in the environment. And as he was Minister for Climate and Environment, working for a guy that failed to include environmental protections in the retained EU law bill, but is committed to extracting more polluting fossil fuels and charters helicopters like he's a 90s rock star, is a bit of a non-starter. It seems there's plenty of gas coming from number 10, but unfortunately, you won't be able to use any of it. Also on the list was MP for Bassetlaw and individual appalled by who he has to wake up as every morning, Brendan Clark-Smith, who started a crowdfund to boost his chances of getting re-elected. Guessing testing baked beans on GB News isn't the gold mine he was hoping for. And it's fair to say the crowdfunding site has gained a bit of notoriety. So much so that if you type in Brendan Clark-Smith in Google, it's the first thing that comes up. MP, you know, his actual job, is second. So how is it going, trying to reach his £5,000 target? Not great. Midday yesterday, it was £154. And then people only did that as they realised it's the only way they could leave a comment he was going to see. But then it dropped to £119 Saturday night as people started asking for refunds. Look, Brendan, if you want to raise money, you've already come up with the perfect solution when you were talking about Boris Johnson.
Equivalent of putting somebody in the stocks and touring them around the country.
And no matter how hard the fruit is or how hard it's thrown, it's unlikely to do any real damage as it's only going to hit your head. But the bad news kept coming for the Tories, even when it sort of goes for them. Sue Gray was told she had to wait 6 months to join the Labour Party by ACOBA, who are the Advisory Committee on Business Appointments, on Friday. But she'd already given her notice in March, meaning she's going to join the Labour Party in September, in a couple of months' time. Just enough time to do a bit of background work like binge-watching Succession. You know, doing the theory while the new boss does the practical. All right, don't laugh, but Nigel Farage has been having a bit of a bad week. I said don't laugh.
Truth is, I'm not full of the joys of spring. I've been living with something for the last couple of months that may well fundamentally affect my future career going on from here and whether I can even stay living in this country. I have been with the same banking group since 1980. I got a phone call a couple of months ago to say, we are closing your accounts. I asked why. No reason was given. So why is this happening to me? Well, one explanation is this. A few years ago, the European Union came up with a definition of somebody called a pet. This could range from anybody from a prime minister down to a local councillor. I think the reason for it was, you know, were people in politics open to bribery? Could foreign governments from Ukraine,
Russia,
or China,
Russia,
or wherever else it may be,
Russia, whose lefty loners? Yes, Nigel is now considered to be a PAP, a politically exposed. Can you guess what the last P stands for? You're wrong, it's person. So what's the problem? Well, Fartage thinks he knows.
A few months ago, in the House of Commons, Sir Chris Bryant, chairman of the Privileges Committee, said, using parliamentary privilege, that I had received large sums of money directly from the Russian government, and he named a calendar year in which it had happened. Truth is, I didn't receive a penny from any source with even any link to Russia.
This is probably unlikely, as apparently other members of his party and family have also been hit. Also worth mentioning, banks, especially commercial banks, don't really have a great track record on wokeness or caring or however you want to call it. They are really all about the money, leading to the only possible answer. The banks are having to be careful on when and how money comes into a customer. If it looks like a ruble-raising rascal, then there will probably be financial costs to you as a bank, not to mention it just looks bad. By the way, this isn't a high street bank. This is one of those special ones. So, it's unlikely to happen to you. But I'm a little bit confused anyway. Aren't banks like any other business allowed to do business with whoever they want, or does that only apply to Christians? But Nigel did get some good news this week. He won an award, and wasn't he proud? The award is called a TRIC, Television and Radio Industries Club. I was considering calling this section Trick of the Right, or Trick for a Prick, but never mind.
Nigel Farage has nabbed News Presenter of the Year in a surprise snap.
It was certainly a surprise to the organisers, who put GB News all the way back to the back of the hall by the exit doors. Farage then got his award from fellow bigot James, living up to his name, Whale, and then decided to turn on that Farage charm he's so well known for.
I have to say, I'm really rather proud to have this because I'm a new boy. Only been doing this for a couple of years, so a huge thanks to all those good ordinary folk who live outside the M25 for voting for me. Think about this. There's a gap in the market, a massive gap in the broadcasting market. You've all become too much the same. Before, of course, I led a party that was mocked and derided, and yet the way we measure who is watching and who is listening to programmes is completely out of touch. Any idea of competition, and you should shout, and you should be frightened, because you will lose your jobs, because I can tell you this, Bar is wrong, and we need reform of this system. We need all of them.
And Nigel Farage was then led away by a judge. And here's hoping it's not the last time I use that sentence. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these vids, then please do like, subscribe, and please do make sure you hit all the notifications bell. And I'll see you all soon. Take care.